Hey teachers, welcome. It's over Thanksgiving break in 2022, and I'm putting together just a how to start even the first lessons. I think every teacher has got a pretty good idea of the tone that they want to set when they start a classroom. I just want to maybe encourage you that entrepreneurship class, if you can make it different than any other class that the students have arrived at, that's what I try to do. I try to set it up so that they feel like they're adults. I shake every kid's hand as they walk in the door every single day of the year. And I think that's important to try to set this class as something that's set it apart, that they're going to use their creativity, that they've got room to fail, and especially that they're going to be doing a lot of collaborative efforts, meaning that everybody can help each other out through a lot of their parts of their grades, with the exception of maybe different tests. I make that quite open for them. So let's just take a look at what we're going to be going through today. I get into a discussion about what is entrepreneurship and try to leave that open-ended for them to be able to come up with as many answers as possible. And then I go into a story that you're going to see, which has to do with my 5-year-old son. The point of this story is to help them to see from the most elementary levels how entrepreneurship is different than a job, and how anybody could become an entrepreneur, even a 5-year-old. And I talk about my son, his 5-year-old ventures and his 15-year-old ventures. As a 5-year-old, you'll see the video, he made over $100 selling donuts door to door. And as a 15-year-old, my son really wanted that Millennium Falcon right there, and he raised about $1,400 selling candles. And he figured out how to do these different businesses over time. So those are just the simplest of case studies. We're going to get into one that's even more extensive here, where we see this young lady who's actually a student at Round Rock High School, and she's made $1 million selling slime, and how she does so well. At the end of each one of these, we have, and you're going to see this throughout almost every one of my classes, a chance for some form of something to get them thinking, whether it's a video, a game, or whatever it might be, and then we have a chance to talk about it. And so I set you up with questions to make it easier for you to have a debriefing or a discussion question. You'll see in this slide, it's talking about me and my family. You'll want to enter your own information there. But I give some of the basics of an entrepreneur just after that. They fix a problem. They improve on some existing ideas. They put 2 or more things together, or they create value by specialization. And these are going to be the things that we repeat over and over in class for them to understand, well, that's the different avenues that I can work through to become an entrepreneur. So after we talk about, this is Jungmin Kyung's Snoop Slimes, again, we'll have these different questions afterwards. If you don't like that example, you can choose this one, which is Eric Wall. This is a guy that makes $40,000 on each one of his speeches. He's a public speaker that does speed art in the middle of his public speaking. So if you don't like the slime example, you can use this one. You might run out of time if you use both, but why not? If you want to give more and more examples of people at different levels of the entrepreneurship, different ways that they do well. And again, we have the debriefing questions for Eric Wall. Okay, and repetition, trying to drill it into their heads. Here's how they succeed. Now, I'm going to introduce another idea here for the students, that in this class, we're going to be exposing students to not just knowledge like you would in other classes where you have to regurgitate things or even apply different things or create. We're going to be focusing heavily on skill and character development throughout the course of this class. And I'll be distinguishing those 3 things often as we go. But one of the best ways to do that is with the example of a phone. I'd pull out my phone or an iPad and I show them that knowledge is like if you were to go on the web and you're just going to download things, or you're going to do a Safari search or a Google search, that can find all kinds of different knowledge of what you might know. But however, if you're looking at a phone, we'll have different apps and we'll have a different operating system. I relate a phone's apps to the skills that a person can develop. Meaning, and here's the best way to understand how these play together. An operating system, like here, this is from the iPhone 14. You can see this, it's got the newest iPhone piece. And the way that this works is this iPhone 14, it can do different games, different things that my iPhone 6 couldn't do. It plays different apps. So the greater the character that you've developed, the more apps, the more skills you'll be able to handle. Character, as I'll explain it, and it's been explained by a gentleman named Rich Diviney in his book called The Attributes. He says that character attributes are developed by putting yourself into challenging, uncertain, and stressful situations. So if students can put themselves into situations by becoming an entrepreneur that are challenging, even stressful, it's like, oh man, how do I approach this person, talk about this? Or, so they're uncertain, challenging, or stressful. That's going to help them to develop new skills as well as new character attributes by putting them into these situations. Skills are developed by repetition. Now, one of the things you'll see that we do in a later slide is I'll want them to come up with different character attributes and skills so that they can, get this really ingrained in these ideas. But this gives them a better understanding of how they're going to grow as a person by being in this class, and it gets them more fired up about being in the class altogether. Okay, after I give them these ideas, we're going to play a game called Over the Mountain. Here's how it works. I talked to them about first, I go, okay, vigilance is one of the parts of a character attribute that you're going to learn about that's going to teach you about others. In other words, I say to them, I want you to look around my room. What did you notice when you walked in? This is a part of mental acuity too. What did you notice when you walked in about my room? What are some of the signs that you see? What are things that stick out to you? What makes you think that this might be a different type of class or the same? And then I'll talk about vigilance. Okay, you're going to be doing a lot of learning about your classmates in the course of this next game. I want you to pay attention as you go because this game is all about paying attention to yourself and to others. So here's how the game works. I have and you'll find this in the Google Docs in the folder for week 1. You'll want to cut slips up of I think there's probably 30 or 40 different questions that we'd have for kids. One person would go into the middle. And as you can see, my classroom's set up where I can pull the chairs out and off to the side, which is kind of nice. I can have them all circle up. And I'll put a chair in the middle with a slip of all of the papers together. And one student would grab one slip that says, I have a pair of Nike shoes. Everybody that has a pair of Nike shoes has to cross over to another chair, but there's one chair that's missing. So whoever doesn't find a chair, now that kid that's in the middle that asked the question, they zip out to another chair. That person has to then ask questions. And the idea is hopefully they'll learn about each other through the whole process of playing Over the Mountain. I've traveled overseas might be another question. I'm a sophomore, or I'm the only sophomore, which hopefully you shouldn't have sophomores in this class, all juniors and seniors. I don't like sophomores. They're not mature enough. Or, whatever the other things might be that you would have in the questions. If you don't understand the Over the Mountain game, read through it in the Google Drive, and that should help you. Just make sure that you've prepped by cutting those slips out and you're able to set the students into chairs or ways that they can move around. If they can't move around, you'll have to find maybe another way for them to get to know each other. Okay, and then again, just like every other game, I have a chance to debrief for talking about this and this is a chance hopefully to get them talking. A lot of times, by the way, when I'm debriefing, I won't have them talk to me, I'll have them talk to each other. So I'll say games like this are just fun, right? Or are they? I want you to turn to your neighbor and do a think, pair, share. Talk with them about what are your thoughts? Do you think this is just fun or are you actually learning something? And then I'll pull 1 or 2 answers out of it. Okay. Going back to the skills and character attributes to kind of let that sink in again. And then I go through my classroom rules and procedures at the end of this class, talk to them about no food, gum, or actually I allow them to have food, gum, or drink in my classroom as long as they're mature adults about it. And I'm trying to set them up to how to behave as a mature adult, how we're going to be working in groups often. The biggest pet peeve I have is cell phones. So as long as they keep them deep in their bag, I don't have a problem. But usually by about week 6, they just can't control themselves because everybody's let them take their cell phones out. Finally, we're going to start on the first assignment. You're going to see at the end of these slides, I give them examples of how to fill it out. There's okay, better, and best. And what I'm really looking for here, this asks them is, what questions do you have? 5 reasons, 5 things that you'll gain from this class. Any concerns about becoming an entrepreneur? And on the backside, tell me some reasons that you'll do well. And then finally, the final question is, do you feel like you want to take this class to be just a student in the class looking for a grade? Or are you looking to do it level up? Level up means I want to take this class and I want to become an entrepreneur in the process. I want to make money in the process and figure out how to actually make $1, even if it's just $1. I'm going to actually take this seriously as an outside project. I'm not just doing this for a grade. That's level up. So then I show them, here's how I want these filled out. And again, I'm a stickler when it comes to full sentences, punctuation, capital I's, capital first letters, different things that you should expect by juniors and seniors that kids just don't do that they need to do well. However, having said that, I make it so that my students can work together on this assignment, so much so that they can even type in answers for each other. The first one to get it done, you got to help somebody else. I want to get them used to collaborating. This for me is not so, I'm not going to be big on grading this. I'm not going to be a stickler about the grades of whether, I don't even care who typed up the answer. What I care about is that every student put their thoughts into this and that they were able to work quickly to get it done together. I care more about the collaboration than I do about the individual work. So therefore, I'm looking for really solid answers from students, even if somebody else has to type it, because one student's going to be a slow typer and another student's going to be a fast typer. So I want to have the fast typers work with the slow typers. I want the kids with dyslexia to have somebody help them out. I want a student that has English as a second language to be helped out by another. This hopefully will give students an idea that this is a different class than what they're used to, that it's not going to be necessarily about, can I check the boxes and get things done? No, I want to know what they're really thinking, and I want them to grow through this process. Okay, that's it for day one slides. I hope this helps. If it doesn't, if you still have questions, shoot an email to Anthony_Ripley@roundrockisd.org, and we'll make sure to get you on the right page for your first class. Have a great first day, teachers. Go get them. Woohoo!